You've logged hundreds of miles, crushed your speed sessions, and maybe even did some gym workouts, only to watch your half marathon dreams disappear in the first few miles because of a tiny oversight. What if the reason wasn't in your training plan, but a sneaky mistake you're making right before the race? I almost learned this the hard way in Santa Barbara, where I ran a 1:13 half marathon after nearly missing the start. I'm going to use this race to show you the most preventable race week half marathon mistakes runners can't seem to stop making. I'll break down exactly what you need to know to make your next half your best yet. Here's the truth I've learned over 15 years of competitive running. Your peak performance on race day is decided long before the gun goes off. But in this video, we're going to focus on the tactical strategies you can use in the days leading up to your race. To break down the most devastating mistakes I see runners making all the time, I'm going to use my own race as a play-by-play of what to do and also what not to do. If you've been following my comeback to the elite level of trail running, thank you so much for being here. And today, I'll share one of the many steps I'm going to have to take if I want to get back there. I'll break this down into 3 sections: week of, day of, and during the actual race. We'll get into things like pre-race prep, race day execution, and the critical mistakes you can make the week before the race. If you're ready to finally set yourself up for a great race day experience, let's get into it. It sounds simple, but race day is already packed with so much stress and nerves. The last thing you need is to be scrambling to get your gear together or rushing around to make it to the start. I see so many runners self-sabotaging in this regard, failing to make even the most basic plans. Locking in your race day logistics is another critical piece of that puzzle. For my race in Santa Barbara, even though they offered race day packet pickup, I went to get my number the day before at the expo for exactly this reason. I'm usually pretty protective of my time, and my first instinct was to skip the standing around at the expo and just get to the race a little bit earlier and pick my number up then. I estimated that it would take me almost 2 hours to go and come back if I went the day before, compared to only 30 more minutes of buffer time that I would build in on race morning. But I bit the bullet and went and did it anyway. The reason for this was as simple as reducing unknown variables and minimizing the number of things that could possibly go wrong right before the race. And if you're wondering what some of those things are, that's coming up in the next section. But back to pre-race prep, since I planned on biking to the start in the morning, going to the expo the day before was also a great time to scope out where I would lock my bike. The same idea applies if you're driving or taking public transportation. Scope out a few parking lots, and remember to be flexible in case you need a backup plan. This would have been a big benefit on race morning, but this is where things went horribly wrong. I had a last-minute change of plans to drive instead of bike so that I'd be in the same car as my support crew. This tiny logistical change completely eliminated all of the benefits that I got from figuring out my plan ahead of time. I thought I knew exactly where I would be going in an unfamiliar place and arriving calm. But instead of having this massive psychological win, we were stuck in a traffic jam with 30 minutes until the race start. People were getting out of their cars on the highway exit ramp, jumping the barrier and climbing the fences to get down to the street below. When I realized that I was in the same position as everybody else, I took action and did what I needed to do to get to the start on time. This is not to mention that I still had to warm up and ideally find a bathroom. You can already see how if I hadn't gotten my number the day before, I would have been in a significantly worse position here. Fiddling with safety pins is not my idea of fun in the few minutes right before a race. Having the opportunity to pin your number onto your race outfit the night before is so much more relaxing. Of course, I also might have planned to get to the race a little earlier and maybe even avoided some of that traffic if I hadn't got the number, but that's a chance I'm glad I didn't have to take. Let me know in the comments if you've ever made a mistake like this. I'd love to hear your stories, whether it's going out too fast, blowing up on a hill, or completely missing the start time. Let's step it back to the week before your race. Managing stress becomes your most important workout. Your only job in this final week is to arrive at the start line ready to perform, and most times the best way to do that is to just stick to your normal routine. But that's not to say there aren't some critical workouts you can do in the few days right before to make sure your system is primed. Knowing how to not mess up a taper is such an important topic that it deserves a video on its own. Make sure you subscribe if you're interested in seeing how to do a tune-up race correctly and avoid a taper tantrum. My version of this was dealing with the fact that I hadn't run anywhere close to half marathon pace in the 3 weeks leading up to the race. Even though I've been training consistently, I haven't been running consistently. There were 2 final training pieces that I needed in the week before the race, and I knew exactly what I was trying to get out of each of them. The first one was to really jack my heart rate up way over half marathon effort. By doing this bike workout at a higher heart rate than I would hit during the race, I got the mental benefit of just the right amount of suffering so it wouldn't be a shock to the system during the race. Zwift would be the perfect way to do this while leaving enough in reserve for me to do the second thing I needed. And that was to get sore. I wouldn't recommend this for everyone, but because I've been running so infrequently, even small bouts of running fast get me surprisingly sore. While this isn't such a big deal for a 5K, a half marathon is long enough for your performance to be impaired during the actual race. To counteract this, I needed to do a workout that would give me just enough stimulus to get sore enough to be protective, but not hard enough to exhaust myself, or too fast where I'd still be sore for the race. Keep watching to see if I paced the workout or the race better. The most important part of this workout centered around a 5-mile tempo effort. This workout also had the hidden benefit of letting me dial in my half marathon pace. Turns out I was spot on. I did the 5-mile workout segment around a 5:35 average, and I held 5:37 in the race. Leave a like on the video to let me know you think this kind of training detail is interesting. Alright, so you've somehow made it to the start line. You've avoided the porta potty crowds. You've managed to find a parking spot where you're definitely not going to get towed, and your legs feel fresh. But now is when all of this preparation is most at risk for one simple reason: adrenaline. Adrenaline lets us do some pretty amazing things, and it's the source of the mythical thing that many runners call race day magic. But just like fantasy magic, it can be more powerful than you realize, and you have to learn how to control it. Especially for races as long as a half marathon, you need to let the effort come to you. Since adrenaline buffers any sensations of fatigue or pain until it reaches a higher level, if you're having what I'll call breakthrough effort in the first few minutes of a race, you're pacing way too fast. That means you've already broken through the shield that adrenaline provides you. Another mistake to avoid is not looking carefully at the elevation profile. By the time you're on course and people are shouting at you to save something for the hill, it's already too late to get a good understanding of what that means. Is it a mini mountain in the middle of the city, or is it more like an anthill? If I just looked at this elevation profile without looking at the numbers, I might not have wanted to do this race. The percent grade is really what you want to look at. The good news is that it tops out at about 5%. Instead of the course profile looking like some abstract triangles and not knowing what to do with it, you can compare this to real places that you're familiar with. The other mistake runners make with hills is misunderstanding how it affects your pacing. In Santa Barbara, as I started climbing, I took a peek at my watch and saw my pace slow from around 5:40 to over 6 minutes per mile going uphill. But what goes up must come down, and you can bet that I was running 5-minute pace on the downhills. Running a well-paced race is so much more about keeping a consistent effort than it is about locking in mile splits that don't have any variation. Remember when I said I left 3 days between that workout and the race to make sure I wouldn't be sore? Turns out that wasn't enough. By mile 5, my calves were absolutely shredded. Those young cows, they wouldn't stop crying until the cows came home, and I was forced to listen to them by easing off the gas until mile 10. This half marathon doubled back on itself a few times and gave you a chance to easily see how close the runners were behind you. But I still felt powerless as the pack behind me was closing in. From that group, there was a particularly strong runner named Zach. I came to find out after the race that he also has a YouTube channel. Check out his channel at The Copycat Runner, where he follows the publicly available training for elite marathon runners. It turns out that we're running the same marathon in December. Make sure you're subscribed to both our channels to see the rematch. You can always tell how close your competitors are behind you based on how soon spectators start clapping again. As the time between cheers from the crowd got closer and closer together, I knew that it was only a matter of time before I was caught. With a few miles left in the race and some really sore muscles, my mind started drifting to the supportive words of encouragement that I'd say when he passed me. I'd just let him go and be happy for his success. But in the moment when he caught me, it was my own words from a previous video that echoed in my mind. I do love competing. It's not going to stop me from ripping as hard as I can in a race.
Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this. We've had a million nights just like this. So let's get down to business.
I quickly pushed all of these thoughts out of my mind and latched onto the pain train as we climbed the final hill on the course. We were close enough to the finish at this point that I could abandon pacing and just focus on pushing through the pain and racing.
Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this. We've had a million nights just like this. So let's get down to business.
I committed not to lose contact before the top of the hill. In the process, both Zach and I passed the runner ahead of us. That moved us into 8th and 9th place. While a top 10 finish in a race with 5,500 runners would be a good accomplishment, at that level of performance, every place matters.
Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this. We've had a million nights just like this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this. We've had a million nights just like this. So let's get down to business.
Over the top of the climb and the course started flattening out before heading back downhill to the finish. I put in a surge here to develop a gap. This spiked my heart rate, but I knew if it was hurting me, it was also hurting my competitors. Over an hour into the race, 5 more minutes didn't feel so bad, and I pinged my heart rate over 190. This felt like a good red line to ride as I did my best to hold them off behind me. Coming into the last half mile, there was one more aid station, and it crossed my mind how ridiculous it would be to take a drink of water. I think the thought of consuming anything was too much for my brain to handle, and I started feeling nauseous. I somehow managed to keep that in check through the finishing straight. This type of competitive finish is my kind of race. I always enjoy when it doesn't just feel like a time trial, and when it's actually a battle between two equally fit and determined runners. After crossing the finish line and trying to walk to the car, my muscles were so tight and I really just wanted to go home and lay down. Even changing and getting in the car was a struggle. But there was one thing left that I completely forgot about. That was to go mattress shopping. This made me realize that mattress companies should probably be bigger sponsors of races. Every single one felt like the most comfortable thing I'd ever been on. But is there a mistake in there, you might be asking? No, there is no mistake. The final mistake is to not enjoy the finish no matter how the day went for you. For me, I was just excited to order a pizza and take a nap. Hopefully by now you can see how there's so much more to a successful race than just being fit. You avoid chaos by planning your logistics, and you make it through the race with disciplined execution. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for being here. Watching until the end of the video is truly the best way to support my comeback. By the time the next video comes out, I'll have raced a 25K on the trails and a 4-mile turkey trot on Thanksgiving. Both of these races will be within the 2 weeks leading up to my season finale marathon. Until then, wish me luck in these upcoming races, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!